Everyone at the park saw just another black man they thought they could push around. They had no idea the storm they were about to unleash with a single misplaced accusation. A storm that would begin with a quiet phone call to the most secure building on Earth. Now, please subscribe to the channel for more stories of shocking twists and justice served. The afternoon sun was a warm, golden blanket over Cedar Grove Park, and for Marcus Thorne, these were the sacred hours. The week was a relentless grind of high-stakes pressure, of decisions that carried the weight of national security. But from 5 to 7 p.m. on weekdays, he was not a senior advisor to the Secretary of Defense. He was just Dad. His daughter, Chloe, a bright-eyed 7-year-old with boundless energy and 2 long braids that swung like pendulums as she ran, was his entire world during this time. She was on the swings, her laughter ringing out across the playground, a sound so pure it could momentarily erase the complexities of his professional life. Marcus sat on a nearby bench, a patient smile on his face, his phone in his hand, not for work emails, but to capture a slow-motion video of her kicking her legs towards the sky. He was a large man, built with the solid strength of someone who had not left his army fitness routines entirely behind, but his demeanor was always gentle, especially with Chloe. His own father had been mostly absent, and Marcus had sworn a silent oath to be the unwavering pillar in his daughter's life. This park, with its squeaky swings and rustling oak trees, was their sanctuary. The peace was shattered by the aggressive crunch of tires on gravel. A patrol car from the Oak Creek Police Department pulled up sharply, its white and blue paint job gleaming ominously. 2 officers emerged, their postures rigid, their eyes scanning the area with a practiced, suspicious gaze. Officer Miller was young, with a close-shaven head and a jaw perpetually set in a hard line, eager to prove himself. His partner, Officer Davison, was older, his face a roadmap of long years on the force, his expression one of weary cynicism. They moved with a purpose that felt entirely out of place amidst the carefree play of children. Their attention, Marcus noted with a sinking feeling in his gut, was fixed squarely on him. He lowered his phone, the video forgotten. Chloe, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, slowed her swinging, her small face clouding with confusion. Officer Miller reached him first, his hand resting on the butt of his service weapon in a gesture that was likely subconscious but felt intensely threatening. "Afternoon, sir. We've had a report of a suspicious individual matching your description. Been sitting here for a while, reportedly taking pictures of children." The words landed like physical blows. Suspicious individual. Your description. Pictures of children. Marcus felt a cold fury begin to simmer beneath his skin, a familiar, weary anger he had spent a lifetime learning to control. He took a slow, deliberate breath, the kind he'd learned in hostage negotiation training. "My description?" Marcus asked, his voice dangerously calm. "And what description would that be? A man enjoying time with his daughter?" He gestured towards Chloe, who was now watching him with wide, fearful eyes. Davison stepped in, his tone placating but with an undercurrent of steel. "We just need to check things out, sir. Standard procedure. Can I see some identification? And maybe take a look at that phone?" The caller was very specific about the phone. Marcus felt the world narrow. The request for his phone was a line in the sand. It contained classified work documents, secure communication protocols, and photos of his daughter that were for his eyes only. "My identification is in my wallet," he said, his voice tight. "But you cannot have my phone. That is a violation of my privacy. My daughter is right there. She's the only child I've been filming." Miller's face hardened. "Sir, if you have nothing to hide, you won't mind showing us. Refusing to cooperate just makes you look more suspicious." He took a step closer, invading Marcus's personal space. "Now, hand over phone, or we're going to have a bigger problem here." The threat hung in the air. Chloe let out a small, frightened whimper. The sound cut through Marcus more sharply than any insult. He saw the other parents in the distance, pretending not to watch, their bodies tense. He was a spectacle, a potential predator in their midst. The stereotype, the one he had fought against his entire life, was being draped over him in broad daylight. He knew this dance. He knew that arguing, showing anger, would only confirm their bias. He was a black man in America, and in this situation, his Ivy League education and his Pentagon security clearance were invisible. Officers, Marcus said, his voice dropping to a low, measured tone that brooked no argument. You are making a mistake. A very serious one. I am going to make a single phone call. After that call, you will apologize to me and my daughter, and you will leave this park. Do you understand me? Miller scoffed, a short, derisive sound. You're going to call your lawyer? You can do that down at the station. Right now, you are obstructing our investigation. He reached for his handcuffs, the metallic click of the latch's sound of finality. Marcus didn't flinch. He looked Miller directly in the eye. No, I am not calling a lawyer. He then lifted his phone. It was a specialized, secure device, thicker than a standard smartphone, with a reinforced casing. He pressed a single button on the side, bypassing the lock screen and activating a dedicated, encrypted line. He didn't dial a number. The device did it automatically, routing through a series of satellites and secure servers. A voice, crisp and efficient, answered after half a ring. Watchtower, authenticate. Thorne, Marcus, Sierra Tango 904, he recited, his voice flat and devoid of all emotion. Priority 1. Patch me through to General William Coulter, Office of the Secretary of Defense. Now! There was a beat of silence on the other end. Even the two officers paused, the strangeness of the exchange cutting through their procedural aggression. Miller's hand, which had been on his cuffs, hesitated. A new voice came on the line, deep, authoritative, and laced with immediate concern. Marcus, this is Coulter. You're on a priority 1. Report your status. General Coulter was not just his boss. He was a mentor, a man who had recruited Marcus personally for his unique blend of strategic intellect and field experience. My status is that I am being detained by local law enforcement at Cedar Grove Park in Oak Creek, Marcus said, his eyes locked on Officer Miller. The allegation is that I am a suspicious person, taking photographs of children. The subject of the photographs is my daughter, Chloe. The officers are demanding I surrender my secured, government-issued device. They are moments from placing me in handcuffs in front of my 7-year-old child. This is an unacceptable breach of operational security and profound personal insult. He could almost feel the temperature drop on the other end of the line. General Coulter's voice became dangerously quiet. Put the senior officer on the line. Right now. Marcus held out the phone to Officer Davison, whose cynical mask had finally slipped, revealing a dawning, horrified confusion. It's for you, Marcus said. General William Coulter, United States Army, Office of the Secretary of Defense. Davison, looking utterly bewildered, took the phone as if it were a live grenade. He held it uncertainly to his ear. This is Officer Davison. He began, but his voice trailed off as the voice on the other end erupted. Marcus couldn't hear the specifics, but he saw Davison's face pale. His posture, one so authoritative, seemed to deflate. He began stammering. Yes, sir? I understand, sir. No. Sir, we had no idea. It was a call, concerned citizen. He listened for another moment, his face now ashen. He slowly handed the phone back to Marcus as if it had burned his fingers. General? Marcus said. The situation is being handled at the highest level, Coulter said, his voice cold with fury. I have the governor on the other line. The police commissioner is about to get a wake-up call he will not forget. Stand by, Marcus. And my apologies. This should never have happened. The line went dead. For a long moment, there was only silence. The two officers stood frozen. Miller looked from his partner to Marcus, his bravado completely evaporated, replaced by a sickening dread. The radio on Davison's shoulder crackled to life. The dispatcher's voice strained and panicked. Unit 47, respond. Code 99. All units, stand down immediately at Cedar Grove Park. I repeat, stand down. All patrols in the vicinity of Cedar Grove Park, return to station. Chief's orders. Direct from the mayor's office. Davison slowly reached up and keyed his mic. Unit 47, copy. His voice was a hoarse whisper. He looked at Marcus, and for the first time, there was something resembling respect in his eyes, buried deep beneath the terror. "Sir," Davison said, his voice trembling, we profoundly apologize. There has been a terrible error." Marcus didn't even look at him. He walked past them both and knelt in front of Chloe, who was on the verge of tears. "It's okay, baby girl," he whispered, pulling her into a tight hug. "Daddy's okay. Everything is okay now." He could feel her small body trembling against his. The damage was done. The sanctuary of the park had been violated. Within minutes, the scene transformed. Another police car arrived, this one unmarked. A man in a crisp suit, his face grim, emerged. It was Police Chief Edwards himself. He spoke in hushed, urgent tones with Davison and Miller, whose faces were now chalk white. The chief then approached Marcus, his hat in his hands, a picture of contrition. "Mr. Thorne, on behalf of the Oak Creek Police Department, I offer my deepest, most sincere apologies. This was a catastrophic failure, in judgment by my officers. The 911 call has been reviewed. It was anonymous and deliberately misleading. We will be launching a full internal investigation." Marcus stood up, holding Chloe's hand. He looked at the chief, then at the two officers who were now being ordered into back of the chief's car. "Your investigation is the least of my concerns, Chief," Marcus said, his voice cold. "Your officers traumatized my child. They saw a black man in a park and assumed the worst. They ignored context. They ignored a child calling me daddy. And they escalated the situation based on nothing but bias. This isn't about a mistake. This is about a culture." He turned and led Chloe away, leaving the chief standing there, his apology hanging uselessly in the air. The story, however, was far from over. The first twist arrived that evening on the local news. A reporter, tipped off by an anonymous source within the police department, broke the story of the park confrontation. But the narrative was twisted. It portrayed Officers Miller and Davison as victims of an overzealous federal government. The report questioned why a Pentagon official was in their quiet suburb, hinting at a heavy-handed response that stifled local police doing their job. The anonymous 911 caller was painted as a concerned parent, and Marcus was subtly framed as an intimidating figure who had used his powerful connections to escape scrutiny. The segment ended with a soundbite from a community advocate criticizing the militarization of federal power over local authorities. Marcus watched from his living room, a fresh wave of anger washing over him. They were trying to flip the script, to make themselves the martyrs. Chloe was finally asleep, but the fear in her eyes in the park was still etched in his mind. His personal phone began to buzz with calls from numbers he didn't recognize. Then the emails started, a trickle at first, then a flood of hateful, racist vitriol. They had found his online profiles. They called him a thug, a bully, a government guerrilla. They threatened him, and most horrifyingly, they threatened Chloe. Someone posted their home address online. The sanctuary of his home had been breached. This was the second, more insidious attack. The police had been the blunt instrument, but this new assault was a digital poison designed to destroy his life from the inside out. He called General Coulter again. "They've released my address, Bill. They're threatening my daughter." Coulter's response was immediate and terrifying in its efficiency. "The story is about to change again, Marcus. We're not playing defense anymore." The following day, the second twist erupted, and it was seismic. At a press conference that was broadcast live on national networks, General Coulter stood at a podium flanked by the Secretary of Defense and the Director of the National Security Agency. Coulter did not mince words. He identified Marcus Thorne by name and title, revealing him to be the lead architect of the nation's most advanced cybersecurity shield, a program that had prevented 3 major foreign cyber attacks in the last year alone. He detailed Marcus's decorated military service, his Ph.D. from Stanford, and his unwavering dedication to his country. Then he turned to the events in the park. He called it what it was, a case of racial profiling that had not only traumatized a national hero and his child, but had also created a significant national security risk. The officers involved, Coulter stated, his voice echoing in the stunned silence of the press room, demanded that Mr. Thorne surrender a device containing Level A classified materials. Their actions, based on nothing but prejudice, compromised a vital asset and endangered ongoing operations. The subsequent smear campaign, including the doxing of Mr. Thorne and his family, constitutes domestic terrorism aimed at a federal employee. He then dropped the final bomb. Furthermore, our investigation, in coordination with the NSA, has identified the source of the malicious 911 call and the subsequent doxing campaign. A screen behind him lit up, showing a series of encrypted IP addresses and phone records. The individual responsible for the initial false report and for coordinating the online harassment is none other than the brother of Officer Miller, who has a prior arrest record for making threatening communications. He acted in concert with his brother, Officer Miller, to create this situation and then to manipulate the public narrative after the fact. The room exploded in a flash of cameras and shouted questions. The story was no longer about an overreaching government. It was about a conspiracy within a police department, about racism, corruption, and a betrayal of the public trust that had targeted one of the nation's most valuable, yet unacknowledged defenders. The fallout was swift and absolute. Officers Miller and Davison were not just fired. They were arrested and charged with a litany of crimes, including conspiracy to violate civil rights, official misconduct, and for Miller, conspiracy to commit cyber harassment. The police chief resigned in disgrace. The city of Oak Creek settled a multi-million-dollar lawsuit with Marcus, which he immediately placed in a trust for Chloe's future and to fund a nonprofit dedicated to combating racial profiling. The public outrage was now directed at the right people, but for Marcus, the victory fell hollow. The final scene took place a month later. Marcus had resigned from the Pentagon. The experience had shown him that the greatest threats to his family were not always foreign adversaries, but sometimes the very prejudices festering in his own community. He and Chloe were moving to a new city for a fresh start. As he packed the last box into his car, a black sedan pulled up. General Coulter stepped out, his uniform impeccable. "I heard you're leaving," Coulter said, his voice heavy. "I can't say I blame you. The country owes you a debt it can never repay, Marcus." Marcus looked at his old friend. "The country doesn't owe me anything, Bill. I just want to raise my daughter in peace. I did my duty. Now my duty is to her." Coulter nodded. "Before you go, there's one thing you should see." He handed Marcus a sealed envelope. "This is a transcript of the internal police interviews after the press conference." Davison, the older officer, broke down. He admitted he knew it was wrong from the start. He said he saw Chloe look at you, and he knew. But he was too deep in the department's culture to stop it. He said, and I quote, "I looked at that little girl's face, and I saw my own granddaughter, and I did nothing. I will have to live with that for the rest of my life." Marcus took the envelope but didn't open it. He didn't need to. The apology, however belated, didn't matter. The justice, however severe, couldn't erase the fear in Chloe's eyes. He got into his car, where his daughter was waiting, already looking forward to the new park she would play at in their new city. As he drove away, he left behind a town forever scarred by the day they targeted the wrong single dad, a man whose quiet phone call to the Pentagon didn't just destroy 2 careers. It exposed a sickness and reminded everyone that true power isn't always about rank or uniform, but about the unbreakable will of a father to protect his child. Now, to all of you watching this, we are curious to know where you are joining us from today. Let us know in the comments. Which part of the country are you watching from?